Wagwan, everybody. Welcome to the Dis-Affamie History podcast, where we'll be speaking about history and as well family history and how history relates in terms of Caribbean people for the present as well as in the past, and how in the past, what that does and brings forth for what we are going through at present and what we can learn from our history, from our family, and take that moving forward. So I do hope you enjoy the podcast. And if you like it, please ensure to subscribe, like, and review. Thank you.
In this episode, Wendy Aris will be joined with guest Marvin Hokstam, is a journalist, writer, and educator. Mr. Hokstam hails from Suriname and has a degree in journalism, including a postgraduate degree in marketing, communications, and journalism from Bournemouth University. Mr. Hokstam has served as editor to the Today News and journalist to the Daily Herald. Mr. Marvin Hokstam is the owner of the media consultancy Hoks Projects. We will be discussing Marvin's passion for education and inspiring the next generation. So let's have a listen.
Thank you, Marvin, for coming on to the podcast, Dis-Affamie History, and to speak about your work in promoting the education for knowing your history. So before we start, can I just have you do a brief introduction of yourself?
My name is Marvin Hokstam. I must laugh because I was giving a lecture in Ghana last week, and I have to go through the same motion of introducing myself. But actually, my introduction was, my name is Marvin Hokstam. By profession, by training, I'm a journalist. And then a friend of mine said, "No, you should have started like that. Started like, my name is Marvin Hokstam. I am an African. I'm an African born in Suriname. That's who I am. By profession, I'm a journalist."
Perfect. Thank you. And so I just wanted to start off first is, what is your, I know you mentioned that you're from Suriname, but what is your background and your genealogy?
We're enslaved in Suriname. And I believe that that my great grandmother, her name was Mapua. I believe that she was taken from Ghana, and I actually believe that she was taken from the northern part of Ghana.
Okay.
Mapua had a daughter, Makamba, and the daughter had a son, and his name was Broos. They called him Broos. I don't know why they called him Broos, because in Dutch, the word Broos means feeble. So I don't know why they called him Broos, because he was not feeble at all. He actually became the leader of a group of Marines, people who would stay slavery and who started villages. I don't call them villages, by the way, I call them kingdoms, African kingdoms in the forests of Suriname, from where they attacked the colonial systems. Broos was the leader of the group that was called the Bakamusitsma, the people of behind the bush. Broos was victorious in for a long time, and he eventually was invited to the capital of Suriname, Paramaribo, by the governor to talk to the governor about peace, to sign a peace accord. And that was in 1862, a year before slavery was abolished in Suriname. And when he visited Paramaribo to sign a peace accord with the governor, the governor gave him a piece of land. He was awarded a piece of land where he had built his kingdom with his people. That piece of land is still in the family's possession. When he signed the peace accord, they took a picture of him. This picture is actually in black and white. I colorized it, but it's supposed to be in black and white.
Oh, wow.
my great grandfather, my grandmother's grandfather. That's from my mother's side. I know little from my father's side, but I know enough about my mother's side to be extremely proud of my heritage.
That's wonderful. And with that knowledge of knowing your heritage, how does that kind of, I guess, complete or define you as a person?
But it doesn't be complete and defining. Um, like I said, I'm a journalist, and I've been a journalist since 1992. And for the first um, 15 to 20 years of my journalism career while I was working in the Caribbean, as on establishing the most vibrant journalism career that any journalist from Suriname could have. Both in the Netherlands, then I moved to the Netherlands, and I decided to devote all my time and all my expertise to only writing about stories from the African perspective, from Afro-centric perspective, so only writing stories about the African diaspora community that we have here in the Netherlands. Because I found out, I heard about this man. I heard about Brooks, about the proud person that he was. If your ancestor is somebody who gave so much, somebody your ancestor is somebody who didn't believe that he was a slave, he didn't believe that he was somebody's slave. He believed that he was a man, and as a man, he should not be anybody's possession. It's learn those things, and then you move to a country like the Netherlands where you're the minority all of a sudden, because in the Caribbean, I was part of the dominant population, and then you move to the Netherlands, where you all of a sudden are part of the marginalized community, and then you have an expertise, and you realize that you could serve that community with that expertise. Yeah, knowing knowing who Bros was, learning who he was, it did define who I am today.
Yeah.
Uh, as opposed, that's why I can say freely, and we briefly spoke about it just now. That's why I can say freely about myself that I'm African. You know, many people of African descent have not found that strength within themselves yet. But strength that lies in knowing who you are, knowing and believing in the strength of our Africanness. I was in Ghana last week, like I said. I gave a lecture, and after the lecture, somebody asked me a similar question about the strength, and about me being really, and not wavering about my Africanness. And I walked up to him, and I asked him if I could hold his hand for a second, and we touched, and our skin colors were the same. And I told him my ancestors were stolen from here in Ghana 500 years ago, and we still look alike. You know how strong that makes us. So yeah, it hides a lot of strength in who you are, in accepting who you are, in respecting who you are. And I wish more people would have found that. More people of African descent would have found that.
It's Well, I mean, as we said before we started recording, it's very, how do I say, the most narrative is the fact of it's a very negative story. So people don't want to associate to negativity and don't feel as if there is shame towards that when there isn't. So with all that you have in terms of this knowledge, in terms of this drive, I guess, what has, I don't know if there's a defining moment for why you decide to go now on this journey of education, of making sure that, we know, or that this history, this knowledge is present for future generations.
Um, the long answer again. Um, my barber is Nigerian. He's you. We we don't understand each other,
Yeah.
but he knows exactly what to do when I sit in his chair. All I have to do is point, and he does it. We all go to the same barber. We might not be the same nationality because of the interference of colonialism, but we go to the same barber. Uh, and that goes back to the previous point that we were discussing about Africanness. When I moved to the Netherlands in 2012, after working in the Caribbean as a journalist for close to 20 years, I spent close to 20 years working on almost all the islands in the Caribbean. And then I had to move here in 2012 because of personal reasons. I couldn't find a job in journalism. Odd that journalist was the only thing I could be. So I tried very hard to get a job in journalism, and despite my degree in journalism, despite my 5 journalism awards, if I may brag for a good second, I have five Caribbean journalism awards. Uh, despite those, I couldn't find a job. Uh, uh, it's of course a Dutch country. I speak Dutch here, and I speak fluent Dutch, but I hadn't written Dutch for 20 years.
Mm.
So my Dutch wasn't up to level, and yeah, I didn't have a reputation in the marketplace here. And then thirdly, I have this beautiful skin color that people look down on, so I did find a job in journalism. So I decided to start my own magazine, Afro magazine, because I saw the black community didn't have its own media platform, serious media platform that reported to them about them. I saw that need. I thought I saw a market. I have to write every day. If I don't write every day, something doesn't feel right. So I have to write every day. So I started Afro magazine for those 3 reasons, to also serve myself. But at the same time, I was offered a job at a school here in Amsterdam, in the blackest neighborhood in Amsterdam. Somebody that started a school had started an initiative to give educational support to children, to teenagers in that neighborhood. The initiative is called Weekend College. So I was introduced to the then project manager and volunteer at that initiative. And I didn't know I would enjoy working with children. I didn't know I would enjoy being an education. So I enjoyed it from the very first moment I started working with young people. I knew that I had found a calling inside of me that I didn't know was there. So 10 years later, I'm still there.
Yeah.
Working with I'm no longer a volunteer. Within a year after, as a volunteer, I was offered the job of manager because the manager was quitting, and yeah, I made an impression. So I'm still the manager 10 years later. I'm still very much excited every day about working with these young people. To an extent, most of these young people are young people of color. 95% of them are young people of black, young people of African descent. I really enjoyed working with them to such an extent that I do much more in education than just running the weekend college. I'm very much involved in decolonizing education. I speak about it at where I write about it. About decolonized education, about the need to decolonize education. Because the education system here is very Eurocentric. Of course, it's Europe, but Europe isn't the same thing it was 75 years ago. But there's a lot of people of African descent, a lot of people of color that live in Europe, in the Netherlands these days, but still, the Netherlands acts as if these people don't exist. So the education system has, specifically for people of African descent, has not been adapted to implement these Afro-centric perspectives into the Eurocentric education system that we have here.
And I know that you had mentioned that, education is the key to the liberation. And just if you could just expand on that as to why you think that this is the key.
But I got myself, from the moment I learned to go back to my great grandfather, in Suriname, the education system is still very Eurocentric as well. It's still very much. Dutch haven't been there for the past. The Dutch haven't been there since the independence of 1975. But it's as if the Dutch are still there because the education system is still largely the same. I always say that in a room with only black people, with no white people present, white people are still present. The education system is still there. We still speak the colonizer's language. We're speaking the colonizer's language at this moment. The education system that was set up by the colonizer. I remember going to school in the past as a little boy and learning more about Holland in Suriname than I learned about Suriname in Suriname. The education system, the history books in Suriname taught us something about slavery. And here's the fun part, certain things about slavery, and they tell us about certain heroes that fought back against slavery, but all the heroes that they taught us about died during their fight. Right? So you have Koyo, you have Mentor, you have Shodeker. Those are all names mentioned, extensively in the history books. You have Bonnie, all the heroes, but all of them died during their war. Right? The one that wasn't mentioned is Bros, the one who survived, was never mentioned. Why do you think that is? That is because if we teach you that your heroes died trying to fight us, we're teaching you not to fight us because you might die. So Bros, my great grandfather, was never mentioned. We learned about it when I was about 40 years old, a couple of years before I moved here. So learning about him again gave me a lot of insights, made me look, if that was withheld from me, what else is there?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I went looking for it. And I was saying this to somebody last week as well. It was like doors were opening inside of me that they didn't even know that were there. I was unlocking doors, finding information within my DNA, maybe, I don't know, within my soul, within my consciousness, by just learning about this one man by my life, my expertise, my specialism to writing about this subject about us by dedicating myself to respecting myself and us. New doors are open inside of me, and it's amazing. So imagine if you would have an education system that would consistently do this. There's so much about us that we don't know. There's so much about us. We came out of slavery with all these. What is your last name, please?
Aris?
One African name.
No.
My name is Hokstam. I was saying this to the Africans in Ghana last week. They laughed. I said my name literally means nothing. It's just two words glued to each other, two Dutch words glued to each other. H and trunk glued to each other. But that's my last name. They gave us these European names. They gave us these European languages. They gave us these European religions. These European traits. When they freed people of African descent, they literally told us in Suriname, go and be the best white person that you could be. and they sent us into a world that would consistently tell us that we're not, and harshly tell us that we're not white people, right? So we were set up to fail. We were set up to fail. So imagine school, imagine an education system that's dedicated to telling us our story consistently, telling our children our story consistently, you know? So you don't, if you teaching them things that we should know as people, so they don't have to unlearn it later. Learning them the right things from the get-go, so you don't have to unlearn it later. Imagine how strong that would make us. So yes, I believe strongly in the power of education, in the power of Afro-centric education to make sound.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, because you said a key point is, once you start knowing your history, it starts opening up things within you to know that what has been the normal narrative is not necessarily correct. The entire story. There's way more than what has just been said, and there's multiple layers of that. It's not just one-sided of that story. There's multiple parts of that story, which there's a lot of things that we do that we don't know where it comes from, because it's just been passed down from one generation to the next, and we just do it because we think it's tradition, right? But not necessarily knowing how that links back to the continent, or where that is coming from. And I guess this leads to my next question, in terms of the challenges that are faced for individuals of African descent globally, in terms of learning and understanding this type of history.
Well, that indeed takes me to my trip to Ghana. But yes, I already said it. Um, we 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 have been set up to fail, because we've been given all these things that are not part of who we are, as a people. We accepted all these things. We accepted the language. We accepted the religion. Um, I'm, it hurts me, and we don't realize it, how much we have ended up as a people at the lowest ranks of of communities that we live in. It's like every other community is. It's like we are all in a race. Life is a race, whether we want to admit it or not. Life is a race. We race toward a certain goal. All of us are in that race, and we are the only ones not racing. We're the only ones walking. Everybody else is running. And it's because we have accepted all these things that they gave us as our history, our truth. It's because we have accepted these lies that they told us about us. We've accepted these as our truth. I see it. I see it at everywhere I turn. Everywhere I go. When I used to live in the Caribbean, when I'm here, when I'm in Europe, when I'm in the US, when I'm in Suriname, I see it. I see our people. When I'm in Africa, I see our people not where we're supposed to be, and it all has to do with. I believe that it all has to do with our, our our limited knowledge about ourselves. Um, we have not been taught to respect ourselves. And when I say ourselves, I mean me. I have not been taught to respect you, but I've also not been taught to respect myself. Right? Just think about the upheaval that we had a few years ago, when all of a sudden everybody, well, not everybody, I wasn't, I'm sure you weren't, but there was a new wave of people bleaching themselves. We have been taught not to respect ourselves. I was in Suriname a few weeks ago, and I'm doing some work that I'm going to talk about just now. I'm doing some work with a African university a university in Ghana, and I met an old colleague of mine, and it's the first time I was here after almost 15 years. And she asked me, "What are you doing these days?" So I told her I'm doing some work with a university in Africa, in Ghana. And the first thing she said was, um, I, I don't want to I don't want to insult. I don't want to sound like I'm going to insult, but so I shut her up right there and then. I said, if you don't want to do it,
Yeah.
then you better shut up, because I'm the wrong person to. Yeah, but it's not. I don't want to insult. I don't want to sound degrading, but I said then you shouldn't say it. So I had to say it 3 times before she realized that she wanted to insult something just because it was African,
Yes.
right? Those are the challenges that we face. So the challenge is within ourselves. The challenges are out there as well, but the challenge starts within us. When I moved to the Netherlands, I have a lot of anecdotes, so I'm sorry for going all over.
That's fine.
When I moved to the Netherlands, I ended up working with we have a racist caricature here that's called Zwarte Piet, Black Pete. It's blackface. Every year around the 5th of December, white people paint themselves black, and with red lips and afro, and acting stupid like that's what black people are. And we have not been able to convince them that that's racist. They know that it's racist, but slowly but surely there has been that there's been a turn over the past 10 years. The social media has helped, people being more aware of what's racism and what's not. So every year on the 5th of December, there's this upheaval. There's this these demonstrations against Black Pete, against Zwarte Piet every year. And Zwarte Piet comes in the story is that he sails with a bearded. He's the helper of a bearded white man from Spain, and they sail in from Spain, and they hand out goodies and sweets to candies to children. And the naughty children, it used to be that the naughty children would be carried away in a big bag uh, by this Zwarte Piet. So every year around the 5th of December, there's a lot of demonstrations against this racist caricature. And on the 6th of December, it's like nothing has happened. So from the 25th of November till the 5th of December, there's a lot of upheaval, a lot of demonstrations. People almost fight with each other over Zwarte Piet. On the 6th of December, it's like nothing happened. You know about this?
Yeah,
And
I know about a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, so I have written a lot about it. And in the past couple of years, I've realized that we're not taking the fight to a new level. It's time to take the fight to a new level. Because by being on the barricades, by, picketing, you do you do change some things. You do change some things, but it's not structural. Um, and the challenge, I was saying this too in my lecture last week. Um, Everything of ours is within the limitations of Eurocentrism. Our names, our religions, our the languages that we speak. Everything is within the confines of Eurocentrism, even our activism. Because the moment the 6th of December arrives, we no longer demonstrate against this racism anymore.
Yeah.
Everything is within those confines. So we need to go beyond. It's like that fish. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of the goldfish that people have been catching in the rivers, and they're this huge goldfish.
No.
Because the goldfish
The goldfish in a bowl will not grow bigger than the bowl because he's confined by the limitations of the bowl. But throw him in a river and he will grow and grow and grow and grow. We're like that goldfish, right? We're in those, we're caught within the limitations, and that's a challenge. We're caught within the limitations of Eurocentrism, and we don't realize that there's more outside of the limitation, because take those limitations away and you'll see how huge we can be. So if you're asking me if what our challenges is, our challenges are, I believe that our challenges are being within those confines, not being able to grow beyond those confines.
Mhm. Definitely, you're definitely seeing some analogies there that more of the challenge. Yes, it's outside, but it's more so internally as to how we we view ourselves, because again, that's what's been indoctrinated into us for such a long time, and of course, very hard to shake those things off, because again, within our own families, certain things, especially coming from the Caribbean, are indicated as being better than sometimes than our own. So what would be then, I guess, some of your strategies that you're trying to implement? Because I know you mentioned that you were in Ghana, you are doing the connection to the university. Are these part of the strategies in terms of enhancing and ensuring that knowledge gets transferred to the next generation?
Yeah. I'm actually very proud of what I've been able to achieve in the past couple of days. I went to Ghana to last year. Last year I was earlier this year. Sorry, in April this year, I visited Ghana for the second time, and because seeing how much our students. Again, I work at a school. I work with mostly young people of African descent, and I can see how much they are restrained by the education system that's so Eurocentric, by the education system that wasn't made for them. I see them struggling. I see them frustrated with this education system that doesn't fit them, that they don't fit in. So noticing that, realizing that the Eurocentric education system doesn't work for our children, on myself to introduce more Afrocentric perspectives into our education. At first, I wanted to start an Afrocentric secondary school in Amsterdam, but the Amsterdam government municipality said no, that's segregation, and I chose not to have that discussion with them, that it's not segregation, because we have these schools in the U.S. All communities have their own schools. The Jews have their Jewish schools. The Hindus have the Hindu schools. The Muslims have their Muslim schools. The Chinese have their own schools, and the benefits of them having their own schools, the proof of that is in the pudding. White people have their own schools because all schools are in essence white, right? So the only community that doesn't have its own schools, and not just in the Netherlands, but also in the Caribbean, the only community that doesn't have its own schools are the people of African descent, and also in the former colonies. The only people of African descent who started their own schools after slavery are the African Americans who started the HBCUs, right? So I started the initiative to start an Afrocentric school, Afrocentric secondary school, Isaac Bond, and I didn't have an argument with them, so I just went and I looked for a partner, and I found that partner in Ghana, where I signed a contract with a university there. The university is based in the northern part of Ghana, a city called Tamale. And there I signed a contract, a cooperation agreement with this university. And my mandate now is to start the first African university outside of Africa by next year, September. That's the mandate that I came back with. It will be the first African university in the Netherlands. And if I'm not mistaken, the first African university outside of Africa, which I'm pretty proud and pretty excited about, because everybody else does it. There's a Dutch university in South Africa. There are American universities all over the Caribbean. There's American and British universities right here in the Netherlands. Why don't we have African universities, African educational systems outside of Africa? I mean, we're here. Why aren't our schools here? So that's what I'm back for. That's what I came back for this morning to go and achieve for the next over the next couple of months, to be able to launch it by September next year.
Oh, wonderful. That's fantastic. And, you mentioned something else in terms of the, I guess you can say the learning, the knowledge. And then what kind of, I guess, courses are going to be taught? What's going to be more of the concentration?
There's going to be a plethora of courses that basically, let's not look at it from the courses perspective. Let's look at it from the perspective. I mean, from the course perspective is definitely a good way of looking at it. But I'm trying to say that the advantage that this school will have, that this university will have, is that the all classes, all courses, all programs will be given from an Afro-centric perspective, from an African perspective, by people, by scholars, by African scholars, or scholars from the African diaspora. Like I was saying, the HBCUs that were started in the US in, I think it was the 1837 or something. They started the HBCUs because white people were banning black children from white schools.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So schools, European schools, Eurocentric schools, have never really been safe spaces for black children. In fact, the entire world is a safe space for white people, but it's a very harsh place for people of African descent. So these schools will be safe spaces for black students, where they're nurtured, where they're encouraged to go beyond those limitations that Eurocentric educational systems put on them. And there's a thought that's coming up in my mind. A lot of the teachers at white institutes, at schools, a lot of the teachers are white women, right?
Yes.
These people teach our children. Where are these white women educated to teach our children? They're educated at white institutions, white colonial institutions that, in a very subtle way, are still colonial systems that despise us. So these white teachers are taught by schools to become teachers, and by educational systems that despise us. So they might not be intending to hurt our children, but the systems that taught them are systems that were put in place when we were considered cattle. You know what I mean? So how can we expect our children, how can we expect our people to love themselves if the people who teach them are taught in a system, or educated in a system that teaches them to despise us, right? So yeah, we have to change that system if we want to, grow above the challenges that we have. So yeah, I was getting a little bit emotional there for a second. I'm sorry.
No, and that's not a problem because a lot of this is just, I guess from not necessarily from an emotional stance, but knowing that it, the challenges that you've indicated in terms of what is being faced, what are the expectations, and how you may be perceived as being limited because you cannot move ahead or as fast as other children, so to speak. And just those inferences that are being taught and how they're being taught. Some children are more, perceptive and can pick up on that a lot more than others. And it does change how, if I have to continue to fight, why do I even bother, right? Type of thing. So you end up giving up before even having a chance and then realizing, okay, I'm going to go and do my own thing. So
Because you're not encouraged.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And, as I think we even talked about it before the recording started, is that there are many layers of this story, of our story, so to speak, that just aren't taught. And I know that you have, before starting this particular journey, you were already having other things, and to talk about that, your own projects and your own institutes that were furthering that information and knowledge, and for people to be encouraged, to be given a positive spin on things. So will that still continue as well, those projects that you have ongoing, or is that already kind of even keel at this point in time?
Good question. um, your question is a double-edged. It's a double-edged. Your answer to the question is a double-edged sword.
Okay.
A friend of mine always says that you can't envision what you don't know,
Yeah.
right? The one challenge that I'm personally facing in the things that I'm doing is convincing people, convincing investors, convincing charities that what I'm doing is 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 worthy, should be done. Because we're so accustomed to this Eurocentric world. We've been taught that this Eurocentric world also represents us, so it's hard for us to envision something else, even though it's us.
Yeah.
When I started with Afro magazine, um, I told you just now about my barber. This is something that I realized when I started with Afro magazine, because I would go to try to sell advertising to companies, white companies, and I would go up to a manager and trying to sell him advertising in a magazine called Afro Magazine, and he's like, but why doesn't it have a Surinamese name? Because the Surinamese people are the largest black community here. Why doesn't it have? And I'm trying to explain to him that no, it's for the entire black community. It will also report on Africans. It will also report on people from Curacao. If there's stories from Jamaica, people from Jamaica who live here will also have those stories in there. He's like, but you guys don't speak the same language. And that's when I told him, well, we go to the same barber, right? um, it was hard for him to envision that there's a magazine that would bring all of us together, could exist. And I'm still having that challenge.
Yes.
I had that, and this was a white business owner. I've had this challenge with black business people as well. They couldn't see it. But we have these white magazines. Why should we have a magazine for ourselves? It's hard. I'm facing that same challenge with starting educational institutes. Why is it necessary to have even black people believe that starting your own educational system is segregation, right?
Yeah.
So, if you're asking me if what I'm doing now will cease once what I'm going to do in the future gets going, no, because they have to. The fortunate thing of starting of having your own media platform is that you don't need other media platforms when you want to reach people. I have Afro Magazine will next year celebrate its 10th anniversary. It's it's not hugely known, but it's known enough to be accepted as a credible media platform. We're running it both in English and in Dutch, by the way, and we do a magazine once every so often, and that sells well. And the fortunate thing about that is that you don't need the mainstream media to reach your own people. So that's the fortunate thing of my little office here. I run Afro Magazine here, and I also run. This is also the office from where I'm gonna be doing the educational work. Right, so we're gonna rent a building and gonna do all the classes in another spot. But Afro Magazine will run alongside, has always run alongside all my other projects, because if I would write a project, if I would carry out a project, I would get funding somewhere and I would be carrying out a project. And we would want to reach out to the mainstream media. 9 times out of 10, they wouldn't give us the time of day. They wouldn't run our press releases because it's not important. It's just these black people doing something again. But if you have your own media platform, if you have your own media, there's a book that I have here that says that, for nation building, you need 4 elements, right? Your own media platform, your own bank, or is it 3? Your own bank and your own media platform, bank, schools, and hospitals. Sorry, 4. If you have those 4, you have nation building. I have 2 of them. So they will continue to run alongside each other.
No, perfect. And I'll put those links in the show notes so people can be able to connect and to know that those projects are still ongoing, because you have quite a few actually, and which all connect into what you're doing. So you're only just kind of evolving into something else. So, what would you, I guess, as we kind of come to a close, what would be, I guess, your final thoughts for anybody to encourage to find their own way, so to speak, or to learn on their own knowledge? What would be your final thoughts?
I almost want to cite from my lecture from last week, because I was discussing that. Hold on, let me find it quickly. We figure that we shouldn't fix what's not broken, even when it doesn't function, even when it could use a lot of improvements. Mediocrity is so much our norm that we don't know how to deal with normal when it's offered. Normal is not a step up. A step up is a step up. We are floating along in a broken system that was designed to keep one group of people rich and thriving. So we must emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves will free our minds. And then there's, to answer your question, I'm looking forward to you wanted to hear. Yeah, my personal rule has always been that I should leave places better than I found them. And I believe that we Africans hold the world's moral compass. When they made it law that we could be subjugated, we were the ones who told them that it was wrong. When they enslaved us, our ancestors walked away from the plantations and they fought back. It took them literally centuries to catch up to where we were in our thought process. We've always been educating the world, enriching the world. We've always made the world a better place. But everybody, including us, fails to realize it because we don't teach it to ourselves and to anyone else. But I believe that our principles, our morals, our knowledge, our lessons are an undervalued export product. This is how we win the war against the lies that were told about us, that were sold to us as our truth. And when the truth is a lie, it will set you free. There's strength in freedom. There's strength and freedom in accepting that what they told us was our truth was a lie. Right? So, like I was saying earlier, I'm first and foremost an African born in Suriname. And that's that freedom. I believe that if you're asking me what I would say to people to encourage them to look for the truth about themselves, to look for more knowledge about themselves. It gives you so much freedom, gives you so much strength. I've grown so much just by accepting, just by acknowledging, just by acknowledging who I am, just by accepting who I am. And yeah, our past has determined our present, but we are the ones who can determine our future. And don't let it slip by on you. Yeah.
No, definitely. Thank you so much for those words, because that is needed in many ways to know that the more that you know about yourself, your community, the better and more whole that you are. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marvin, for coming on to the podcast and to discuss your initiative. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Hoped you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please make sure to like, follow, subscribe, and write a review for the episode wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you.